Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is Whitney over at Health Trust Software, and this morning we are going to be talking about posting payments and checks to your ledger. Now, I've already logged into the system on my end. Just going to check and see. It looks like no one has sent over any questions, so you guys can hear me okay. That's good. I'm already logged into the Health Trust Software program on my end. So that's going to be your first step. Now, we've already kind of talked about in previous webinars the actual billing process and what that looks like. So today we're going to be talking about just posting checks, posting payments. We'll answer some individual questions if you guys have questions. So the first page that we're going to look at is actually going to be underneath the billing tab. Okay, and that's going to be our View Responses tab. So I'm going to Billing and then View Responses. Now most of you are familiar with this screen. This is where you can go to view your rejected claims, to also view your accepted claims. And then we also have a link over here to the right-hand side that's labeled Payment Files. And when I click on this link, that's going to actually pull up a list of different payment files that have been pulled into our system. Okay. Now, first I'm going to talk a little bit about importing your payment files because there are two different ways that you can actually do this. Okay. If you're billing electronically through Health Trust Software and you actually receive your payment file electronically, like let's say from Medicare, you can actually receive those payment files here under this Payment File tab. Okay, so if you build those claims electronically through our system, you have set up or told Medicare that you want to receive those payment files electronically. When we're polling basically for those accepted and rejected responses, we also will be looking for these payment files. And as soon as we find one, we'll post it here. And you have three different options over to the right-hand side. Okay, the first option is going to be this little cylinder option, and that's going to allow you to actually import that payment file. You can see when I hover my mouse over it, it tells me import payment file. The box right next to it is going to be a little magnifying glass, or the option right next to it is the little magnifying glass. And what's going to happen when you actually open this up, now mine's telling me file not found because it's not actually a real payment file, but for example, it would open up just a file that you could view like in maybe Notepad or something like that that would give you the details of that particular payment file. And then the little third option, just like you see on your accepted and rejected claims screen, is that floppy disk, and that just allows you to actually archive the payment file. So that way, once you've actually posted that check to your ledger or you've posted those payments, you can archive this payment file so that it doesn't accidentally get posted twice or even imported twice into the system. Every time you click on this little cylinder option, and again, mine isn't wanting to pull it up here because it's not actually a real file. It's a testing file in our testing database. But what's going to happen is you'll click on this little option here, and that'll pull up a separate window that's going to give you your remittance in like a text file. It'll also give you your pending check that you can click on and then go in and actually post those payments or just manually make sure that everything is balanced on that end before you post it to your ledger. And that's how you can actually electronically import those into the system. Okay? Now, if you're not receiving those electronically through our software, but you actually can go to, let's say, the payer's website and download that payment file, save it onto your computer, you can import those payment files into our system also. Okay? To import those payment files, let's say you've gone onto Blue Cross Blue Shield's website. You have downloaded your electronic payment file that you've received on their website, and you've saved it onto your computer. The next step would be to go to billing. Oh, ledger, and then import, and then you're going to choose that ANSI 835 option so that you can import that payment file. Now the very first option that it gives you, this is kind of a page that will allow you to filter for different things and look for different things. Excuse me. The very first option that it gives you is going to allow you to select your payer. Usually we have a magnifying glass to search for the payer, but out to the right-hand side you'll notice that it's just a little S that's underlined, and that's going to automatically pull up a list of all of your payers so that you could then find the one that you were looking for. Just click on it, and that's going to insert that into that field. Okay, you have some other options here, like your include line items and also your import adjustments and create pending check option. Out to the right-hand side, we do give you kind of some helpful hints. So you want to uncheck this option for Medicare Part A's and also uncheck that second option. And then this create pending check, if you just simply want to receive a printout, you want to make sure that you uncheck that option. If you want to actually receive the pending check, which most of you guys would want to do so that you could actually post that check into our system, make sure that you leave that box checked, and that way it'll generate that pending check for you. Okay. You also have a file name suffix option, and this is going to be if you want something to show up in front of that file name for that ERN. Maybe you have different providers or different branches or something that they were paying to and you wanted to differentiate between the two. You could put that file name suffix in there. And then the browse option actually gives you the capability to search through your computer's files and locate that particular file that you're looking for. Okay, so you'll notice I click on browse and that takes me into my desktop. I can just scroll through and search for that file. Okay. Once you've found your file, click Submit, and what that would do is that would actually import and create that check for you. Now, since we don't actually have a payment file, we're going to manually add in a check. Okay, so this is going to be the steps that you guys could take if you wanted to manually go in and add in a check. We also have kind of a sample check that we're going to go through and talk about adding some claims to. And so I have a little remittance here in front of me that I'll post at the end of the webinar so you guys can see it if you wanted to look at it. And I'll also pull it up as we're going through and posting. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, let me get my paper here, folded. The first thing I'm going to do to manually add in a check, if I'm not importing an electronic payment file, is I'm going to go to Ledger, and then I'm going to go to Check Menu. Okay. Now this by default is going to show me a list of my confirmed checks. I have my alphabet at the top of the screen that I can use to click on to search for a specific payer. I can click on the word All to the right-hand side to actually show a list of all of my checks, and these are just confirmed checks. And then I have an advanced search option to the right-hand side that I can use maybe if I wanted to search for my pending checks that I was still working on that I hadn't actually posted to my ledger yet. This is also where you'd be able to see those checks that you imported if they were still pending and you hadn't actually confirmed those checks. Okay. So to manually add in a check, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on Add New Check. Okay, that's going to take me into my Add Check screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter in my check number. All of the required fields are going to be marked with an asterisk to the right-hand side. So let's enter in my check number. I'm going to enter in 565463. And while I'm doing this, I'm actually going to pull up my sample remittance that I was talking about so you guys can see it. And I'm just going to half my screen here. Bear with me just a minute. I've paused my screen so that you guys won't have to watch me switching around screens. Okay, so for example, on the left-hand side here, I have my sample remittance that I've added in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in this particular check. Excuse me. So I'm going to add in the check number. As soon as I find it up here at the top, 4135465463463. So I've entered that in. Now my check date, I have my check date here that I see on my remittance, and that is 7/30 of 2013. Remember, it's always 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and then 4-digit year. Okay, my process date is, it looks like 7/27 of 2013. My deposit date would just be the day that I actually deposited it into my account. This is going to be an important field if you guys are keeping track of your dates, for keeping track of that deposit date for your reports and things like that. It'll help you guys easily reconcile with an outside accounting package if you're using QuickBooks or something like that to actually manage the physical financial account. Make sure that you enter in that deposit date. In this case, I'm just going to say my deposit date was 7/30. Let's say I deposited it on today's date. Okay. My payer, if I look on the left-hand side, my payer here is Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay, so I'm going to use my magnifying glass, and I'm going to locate my payer and click on their name, and that's going to enter them into that field. Okay. My check amount here, if I look back on my remittance, okay, I have 3 different patients, it looks like here, Mr. Bobby Boucher, Donald Trump, and then another claim for Bobby Boucher. And so over on my right-hand side, I should be able to scroll down to the bottom, and that should give me my total check amount. Now again, this is just a sample one, so yours may look a little bit different, or the columns may be titled a little bit differently, but it's all going to be pretty much the same. At the bottom, somewhere around that bottom area, you should be able to see your check amount, which is, in this case, $570.74. Okay. And then my next box is going to be my paid amount, and my paid amount is also $570.74. Okay. And then the next box is going to be my contractual amount. Now you'll notice on these, if you'll notice when I'm looking at my remittance, it looks like they have recouped maybe a payment here. So for right now, I'm going to leave my contractuals blank on this particular check until I actually go in and add in the claims or post those claims to this particular check, and that way we can actually get the exact amount that those contractuals are going to be. So for right now, I'm going to leave it blank. If there was any denied amount, you have that box adjusted, your overpay box, interest, and then also a box for any bill adjustments or check adjustments. And we're going to leave those blank for right now. Now again, to the right-hand side, looking at my health trust system, at the very bottom I have my provider ID. Now that's going to list all of your different branch offices. If you guys have more than one branch office or more than one location, or if you have different kind of divisions of your agency, maybe a PAS division and then your regular nursing division, you can choose the different providers, Now keep in mind, if more than one provider was paid on this particular check, if you wanted to actually utilize this provider ID for different reports and things in our system, you know, it may be easier to add in a check for each particular provider. But a lot of the times your payers are going to pay for more than one provider on one check if they're all maybe coming to the same address, or more than one patient at different providers if they're all coming to that same address. So just choose the most appropriate provider down here. It should just default to the first one in your list. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and click Submit to save that check. We actually worked on one of these this morning, so it's letting me know that a check with the same check number has already been entered. It's just giving me a warning. For the sake of this training, I'm just going to ignore it and click Submit. Okay, and to the right-hand side, I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see more of our check. Okay, so to the right-hand side, we now are in our pending check information screen. Okay, if you had actually imported an electronic payment file either from that payment file page in our system, or if you had gone to Ledger, Import, and manually imported that, as long as those claim IDs are the same, the system should recognize those those patients that are included on that payment file, and it should try and automatically match up your patients in this list here under Transactions. Now, since we're manually adding in this check, we don't actually have anyone listed here, so we need to use this manual button to go and find our actual claims for our patients, and we need to add those in manually instead of the system doing it automatically. Okay, so what I'm going to do is over here, again looking at my left-hand side of the screen, we have our 3 patients, and I'm just going to start at the top of the list. Okay, so we're going to click on the manual button, and it automatically just starts kind of at the top of my list, and I think it's pulling up some of the claims I've already used. We can either search for our patient's name, or we can search for that claim ID if we know the claim ID. Now in this case, on our remittance, we actually do have the claim ID, and that's showing up here. Here on this particular remittance that I've used as an example, it's showing up as ACTN. Okay, and so I'm looking for claim 184 for Bobby Boucher. So I can enter in that claim ID in that search option, and I can find that claim, and then I'm just going to click on it. Okay. Now what that's going to do is up at the very top, you'll be able to see your claim information. Okay, so it's going to give you your basic patient info like his address, phone number, and then the claim information over on the right-hand side. You'll be able to see the claim ID over here, the claim type and the claim dates and the total, and then also the remaining balance. Okay. Now you'll notice that in this particular case, let's look back. I'm going to scoot the screen over so we can look back at our remittance. It looks like the balance is $1,083.16. It looks like they paid $902.64. Okay, so what we're going to do is down here on the right-hand side under Transactions, you can choose individual visits, or there may be an option in there depending on the type of claim. There may be one that says all charges, but you can choose that date of service that you're posting that payment to. You have a drop-down box to select the type. In this case, it defaults to payment, and we're going to leave it as payment. And then you have a reason box. Now, the reason box is actually something that you guys can customize. You can customize these by using the Attributes field. So under your Reference tab and Attributes, you can add in custom attributes so that you guys can customize these reasons that will help later on for reporting and things like that. For example, maybe beyond filing limit or beyond the patient's benefit limit. We just have some sample ones in here. I'm not going to use any of them for this particular payment. And then my quantity, I'm just going to leave as 0. You don't need to enter in a quantity there. And then I'm going to actually enter in the payment amount, which, remember, that payment amount, looking over here at my remittance, is $902.64. So I'm going to erase that amount that's in there and put $902.64. Okay, you can add in any additional comments maybe about that particular transaction. I'm just going to go ahead and click Submit. And you'll notice that that posted my transaction here. And then you'll notice that my remaining balance is $180.52. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that screen for right now. I'm going to write down that $180.52 just to remember it in case I need it. Okay. Okay. Now, if you wanted to actually write off this amount right here at this time, you could go ahead and change the type to a contractual, and then you could choose a reason if you had maybe a custom reason in there for a write-off, and then you could click Submit again, and that would write off the remainder of that amount. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that now with this particular one. So, for example, I'm going to change it to contractual now. It defaulted that amount in there, and click Submit. Okay, so now we see that my remaining amount is going to be 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do is then close the screen. That takes me back to my pending check information page, and you'll notice that my patient here has now been added, and he's showing up in black. Because he's balanced out. Okay? So let's go in and let's add in our next patient, which, if we're looking on our left-hand side here, it's going to be Mr. Donald Trump. So I'm going to use my manual button again to find Donald Trump. And it was claim 276. So I'm going to find claim 276. And I'm going to click on the actual claim number, and that's going to take me again to that claim info page, and I'm going to post his payment. Okay? Now, let me see. On his payment, it looks like they took back $1,083.16, so the previous amount. So what we're going to do, it looks like they took back that previous payment. So what we're going to do here, okay, so we're going to leave this type here as a payment since we originally had posted it as a payment. So we originally had gone in and we had posted a $1,083.16 check as a payment. So we want to make sure that we leave this type also as a payment. And for the reason, you could add in maybe a reason that said recoup or any other custom reason just for you guys to know for reporting purposes. Or you could also add that down here in the comments. And then we're going to enter in our amount. Okay, so my amount is going to read just like it does on our remit. Okay, so we want to enter -1083.16 and then click Submit. Okay, and so what that's going to do is now that's pulling in my remaining balance of $1,083.16, and it posted my negative paid amount because they recouped that money. And remember, we want to always document when they're recouping something, we always want to document it as far as the type goes as the same type that we originally had posted the payment. So if we had originally posted it as, you know, an overpay or something like that, then we would want to post that as an overpay if we were trying to back it out or recoup that out of our ledger. Okay? So I'm going to close this window now because we're done with this one. And you'll notice that Donald Trump is showing up in red. And that's just simply because he has a balance remaining. Okay? And let's go ahead and add in our last one for Bobby Boucher. and that was the last one on our remittance. And oops, I scrolled too far on my remit, and that was 266 was my claim ID. Okay, and so I am going to choose claim 266. That again is taking me into this claim info screen, and I'm going to post that payment. And that payment, let me scroll over to the right-hand side, was $751.26. So you'll notice the balance was $766.59. So we have a little bit of a balance, okay? And so the payment, $751.26. Remember, I'm going to leave it as payment. I'm going to leave that quantity as 0, and I'm going to click Submit. And remember, that leaves us our balance here that we can either go back later and write off as like a contractual, or we can actually do it now from this screen. I'm just going to change this one to contractual and hit Submit. Okay, and then close that window. Okay, so now that we have everything, you'll notice that I still don't have a confirm button to confirm this particular check. Now the reason for that is because we added in some contractuals. Okay, so at the very top, we always have our check number that we can click on to actually take us back into that pending check. You have your check date, all of the other fields that you filled out, your check amount, and then you have this bottom column. Now on this bottom column, what you entered in on the actual check is always going to be on the left-hand side, and then what your totals and things on your actual claims or transactions down here is going to be on the right-hand side. So you'll notice we had $570.74 worth of payments on our check, and we also have that same amount of payments in our transactions that we've posted. So we know that that was done correctly. Okay. The reason why we're not actually getting our confirm button to post this check to our ledger is because of our contractuals. Okay, they don't balance. Okay, so on the left-hand side on our check, we're showing 0 contractuals because remember we wanted to wait until after we had manually added in these transactions to get that exact dollar amount. Okay, and we see that dollar amount now is $195.85. So what I want to do to get these to balance out is I just want to click back on my check number, and in that contractual field, I'm going to enter in $195.85, and I'm going to click Submit. Okay. Now what that's going to do is you'll notice that that balances that for me, and I now have a confirm button. Okay. Now down here also, if you have a confirm button, even right before you have that confirm button, right above there you'll notice that you have an option that says that the claim balance is less than, and then it defaults to 3% in that amount. But you'll notice that it says that the claim balance is less than 3% of the billed amount, automatically write off as a contractual or bill adjustment. So if you would prefer for the system to just kind of automatically write those off after maybe a specific percentage, then you can go ahead and just click on either the contractual button or the bill adjustment, depending on how your agency is documenting that and how you guys want to report that. And then you can click Confirm. Now once you click Confirm, it'll pop up a little alert, so make sure that you have it set to allow pop-ups from our website. And it'll pop up an alert that asks you if you're sure you want to confirm that check. And once it's confirmed, it can't be edited because it actually posts it to our ledger. And if you're okay with that, you can go ahead and click OK. That'll refresh your screen, and you'll be able to see all of your check information. And then you could just simply go back into Ledger and to Check menu to go in to add maybe another check if you had another payment or another check that you needed to add in or import. Okay? And so that is how to post a check in the system. Okay, so what we're going to do now is let me look here. I don't notice any questions that have come in, so if you guys have any questions as we're talking, remember, just send me a message and we'll try and answer those. Right now we're going to actually look at how to back a check out of the ledger, or back a payment out of your ledger. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into our billing tab. Actually, I'm sorry, ledger tab, and then we're going to choose check menu, because what we're going to do is we're going to add in a check the same way that we had just added one in. The only difference is we're going to be backing out that amount. Okay? So once I'm in my check menu, I'm going to choose Add New Check. And then I'm going to enter in my check number, my check date. For the check number, if you wanted to, you could enter in the check number. It could be adjustment or back out, or kind of any generic kind of check number or word or text that's going to let you guys know when you're looking in your ledger that you're actually moving a payment or backing a payment out. I'm just going to put ADJ training. That way I know it was the one that we actually backed out and adjusted in training. For the check date, I'm just going to put in today's date. Okay, and then for my payer, I would choose my payer. So whichever payer was had paid the original amount that I'm now trying to back out. Let's just use Blue Cross Blue Shield for our example, okay? And my check amount is going to be 0 because they're not actually paying. There's not actually any money on that particular check. Okay, and then my paid amount is going to be whatever the amount that I'm going to actually be backing out. So it's going to be a negative, let's say, $100. Okay? And then I'm just going to click Submit. Okay, now it's just giving me a warning here, letting me know that my check amount is 0 and that I didn't enter in a valid deposit date or a process date. I'm going to go ahead and just disregard those warnings and click Submit. And again, that's going to take me into my pending check information. Okay? And now what I want to do, just like we kind of did in the other, I want to search for that particular claim or for that transaction that I wanted to back out. So I clicked on my manual button, and that again pulls up my billing menu, and I'm going to search for that claim. And let me see if I can find a claim real quick that I can use. And then click on that claim number, and again that's going to take me into that claim info page. Okay, and then remember our type, like I had just mentioned when we were just adding in that first check, the type always needs to stay the same as the original type that the payment was listed. So if, for example, my payment was originally $100 and I listed it as an actual payment, when I'm backing this out, I want to still list it as a payment, except on the amount, instead of it being a positive $100, I want it to actually be a negative $100. And then I'm going to click Submit. Okay? And then I just close that screen. Now you'll notice that it's still showing up in red here, but I do have my Confirm button because my paid amount up here balances out. Okay? It was a negative $100. They took $100 back, and I have actually gone in and manually added in that transaction for that negative $100 off of that account. Now it's still showing that remaining balance. Our balance previously was $1,083.16. It's now $100 more, so you can see it showing up here in red. And then I can just confirm that check to actually post it permanently to the ledger. Okay, and that'll back out that payment. Okay, let me check. I'm going to go ahead and click confirm just to do this one, and let me check and see if any questions have come in. Okay, so it looks like since we don't have any questions, we do have some different reports and things that might be helpful for you guys to run. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to type up those different reports with the different filter options so that you guys can have something to use kind of as a reference. And I will post that along with this training video this afternoon. So be looking for that alert with this webinar video and also those reports that maybe you guys will find helpful when you're trying to look at your ledger and balance everything out or post your checks or maybe find a remaining balance for a particular patient. And still no questions have come in, so it looks like that's going to be it. Thank you guys for watching this morning.